I want you to picture something for me. You drive 4 hours to your lake cabin, the property you've owned for 11 years. And when you pull up the gravel drive and step out of your truck, there's a strange car in your parking spot. The lights are on inside, and a kid you've never met is standing on your porch drinking a beer like he owns the place. Because according to the HOA's board president, he does. I'm talking about a woman named Donna Whitfield, president of the Lakeview Ridge Homeowners Association, who used her position, her access to HOA records, and what I can only describe as an almost unbelievable level of arrogance, to quietly reassign the use rights to my property to her own adult son. And when I showed up, she called me the problem. By the time this story is over, Donna had resigned from the HOA board, her son had been removed from the property by a county sheriff. I had filed and won a civil action against the association, and the HOA's own attorney had sent them a letter telling them they were catastrophically exposed. But here's the thing, I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't even raise my voice. I just kept every single piece of paper. Before I get into how this whole thing unraveled, if stories like this make your blood boil and your jaw drop, you're in the right place. This is HOA Incredible Stories, and every week we bring you real accounts of HOA overreach, property rights abuse, and the people who fought back and won. That changed when Donna Whitfield joined the board. She ran unopposed for board president 3 years ago after the previous president, a retired schoolteacher named Harlan, stepped down for health reasons. Nobody thought much of it at the time. She sent out a community-wide email announcing what she called a property use audit. The stated purpose was to identify any cabins that had been abandoned or chronically underutilized, which she said was creating maintenance burdens and aesthetic concerns for the community. It stated that my property, Cabin 74, as it was referenced in HOA records, had been flagged during the community property review as a potential candidate for the association's Seasonal Stewardship Program. I called my real estate attorney the same afternoon. 3 months passed. Late September, my wife and I decided to take a long weekend at the cabin before the weather turned. 4-hour drive. We arrived on a Friday evening just before dark, and there was a car in my driveway. A young man answered, mid-20s, flannel shirt, looked like he'd just woken up from a nap. I asked him who he was. He said his name was Tyler. I asked him what he was doing in my cabin. He looked confused and said my mom arranged it. She said it was a community program or something. Who is your mother? I asked. He said Donna Whitfield. I read through them with my attorney on the phone the next morning, and what I found was extraordinary. The special session had been held with only 3 of the 7 board members present. There was no quorum. The meeting was procedurally invalid. The resolution they had passed was therefore void. It had no legal standing whatsoever. Donna hadn't just overstepped. She had manufactured a program, convened an invalid meeting, passed a void resolution, and used all of it to put her own son in my cabin. My attorney drafted a formal demand letter. It went out Monday morning, certified mail, to Donna Whitfield, all 7 HOA board members individually, and the HOA's registered management company. The letter was 16 pages long. Not a legal response. Not a formal letter. A handwritten note, delivered to my cabin mailbox, which told me she had been there in person. That said I was being unnecessarily aggressive, and that the board would be forced to consider enforcement action against me for conduct unbecoming a community member. The court granted the emergency order within 48 hours. A judge reviewed the documentation and decided, without even needing to hear oral argument, that my claim was strong enough to warrant immediate emergency relief. His letter described the HOA's position as catastrophically exposed, confirmed that the special session had not met quorum requirements, acknowledged that the Seasonal Stewardship Program had no basis in the association's governing documents, and stated that the board members who participated bore personal liability exposure. Another homeowner, a retired engineer named Walter, had been told that his cabin had been temporarily listed in the community rental registry, and that short-term rental income had been collected on his behalf. He never saw a dime of that money. Donna was not at the meeting. She had submitted her resignation from the board 2 days earlier. No explanation, no statement, just a one-line email to the HOA secretary. The civil case settled 4 months later. My legal fees were covered in full. I received damages for the unauthorized occupancy, and a permanent restriction was placed in the HOA's governing documents prohibiting any board member from initiating any program affecting individual property use rights without a full member vote. A small section of the HOA's gravel service road crossed my property line. Not by much, maybe 11 feet at its widest, but it was on my land, had been since I bought the place. Nobody had ever asked permission. There was no easement on record. 3 weeks after the civil settlement was signed, I had a contractor install a 6-foot cedar privacy fence along my surveyed property line. The fence ran right across the path of that service road. The road terminated against my fence posts. The HOA spent 6 months trying to negotiate an easement. The fence is still up.